China, a nation torn apart. China, a land of ancient civilizations and immense cultural heritage, faced a new battle in the 20th century, one that would determine its future for generations. From 1927 to 1949, the Chinese Civil War was not just a fight for power, it was a fight for the soul of a nation, shaped by ideological divides that would tear it apart. At the heart of the conflict were two colossal forces. On one side, the Kuomintang, or Nationalists, led by Chiang Kai-shek, sought to build a modern centralized China. They envisioned a nation that embraced nationalism, industrialization, and political unity, with the ultimate goal of reclaiming China's former greatness. On the other side, the Communist Party of China, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, called for a revolution. They promised land redistribution, an end to exploitation, and the creation of a new society based on Marxist-Leninist principles. The prelude: China in turmoil. The roots of the Chinese Civil War can be traced back to the collapse of the Qing dynasty in 1911, which ended over 2,000 years of imperial rule. China, now a republic, was thrown into a period of instability and chaos. The central government was weak, and warlords fought for control of various regions. The country was further divided by foreign powers, Japan, the United Kingdom, France, and others, who carved out spheres of influence, further undermining China's sovereignty. In this environment of political fragmentation, the Kuomintang emerged as the leading nationalist force, led by Sun Yat-sen. Sun's vision of a unified, modern China was initially supported by the Soviet Union, which saw an opportunity to influence Chinese politics. In the mid-1920s, after Sun's death, his successor, Chiang Kai-shek, assumed leadership of the KMT. Chiang was determined to consolidate power, but his ambitions would lead him down a path of conflict with other factions, most notably the Communist Party. The formation of rival ideologies. By 1921, the Communist Party of China had been founded, with its primary aim being the overthrow of the feudal, imperialist, and capitalist structures that they believed oppressed the Chinese people. Mao Zedong, a relatively obscure figure at the time, would rise to prominence within the party. His ideas about peasant-based revolution and the need for a strong, centralized, authoritarian government would eventually shape the course of Chinese history. At first, the Kuomintang and the Communists worked together in an alliance, formed in the mid-1920s, known as the First United Front. This was a strategic partnership meant to unify China against warlords and foreign powers. However, ideological differences soon emerged. The KMT under Chiang Kai-shek favored a more conservative approach, focusing on strengthening China through national unity and military force. The Communists under Mao viewed the KMT's approach as insufficient and too closely aligned with imperialist interests. The Shanghai Massacre, a bitter betrayal. In 1927, the fragile alliance between the KMT and the Communists collapsed. Chiang Kai-shek, feeling threatened by the growing influence of the Communist Party, launched a brutal purge of communists in Shanghai. Thousands of communist leaders, workers, and intellectuals were executed, and many more were forced to flee. This moment, known as the Shanghai Massacre, marked the beginning of an all-out civil war between the KMT and the Communist Party. The Communists, despite the purge, did not fade away. They went underground, regrouping in the rural areas and gradually building their base of support among the peasantry. Mao Zedong, who had been involved in the early stages of the communist movement, emerged as a key figure in this new phase of the struggle. He focused on rural areas, believing that the peasantry rather than the urban working class would be the key to a successful revolution. The Long March. Survival and myth-making. By 1934, the Communists faced annihilation. Chiang Kai-shek's KMT forces had surrounded them, and the future of the revolution seemed grim. In a desperate bid to escape encirclement and regroup, the Communist forces embarked on the legendary Long March, a grueling 6,000-mile trek through treacherous terrain, over mountains, across rivers, and through enemy lines. The journey took over a year, and during this time the Communists endured unimaginable hardships. Tens of thousands of men, women, and children perished from disease, starvation, and attacks by KMT forces. Yet, the survivors, numbering fewer than 10,000, emerged as heroes. The Long March not only saved the Communist Party from destruction, but also became a defining moment in Chinese history. Immortalized in myth and symbolism, Mao Zedong's leadership was solidified and the Communist Party gained the admiration of millions for their resilience and determination. World War II, a truce and changing alliances in 1937, China's plight worsened when Japan invaded, starting the Second Sino-Japanese War. This devastating conflict forced the KMT and the Communists to form a fragile alliance in the fight against a common enemy. However, despite the truce, tensions simmered beneath the surface. While the KMT bore the brunt of the fighting, the Communists took advantage of the chaos, expanding their influence in rural areas and strengthening their forces. The KMT, led by Chiang Kai-shek, had received significant support from the United States, but it was plagued by internal corruption, ineffective leadership, and a deteriorating economy. The Communists, by contrast, were highly disciplined, united under Mao's leadership, and increasingly popular among the peasantry. As Japan's defeat loomed, the uneasy alliance between the two factions began to fracture. The final showdown, 1945-1949, after the Japanese surrender in 1945, the Second Sino-Japanese War came to an end, and the Chinese Civil War resumed. This time, the stakes were even higher. The KMT, despite its superior numbers, was in decline. Corruption and military failures had drained its resources, and morale among soldiers was low. In contrast, the Communist forces had grown significantly during the war, and their disciplined approach to governance and military strategy won them increasing support from the rural population. The Chinese Civil War was now in full force. The Communists, with the support of the Soviet Union, launched a series of military offensives that decisively turned the tide in their favor. By 1949, the Nationalists, defeated and demoralized, were forced to retreat to Taiwan, where Chiang Kai-shek established a government in exile. The birth of the People's Republic of China. On October 3, 1949, Mao Zedong stood on the Tiananmen Gate in Beijing and declared the founding of the People's Republic of China, marking the end of the Chinese Civil War and the beginning of communist rule. The world watched as China entered a new era shaped by Mao's vision of a Marxist society. The legacy of the war, Taiwan ideology, and a divided China. While the Civil War ended on the mainland, its legacy lived on. Taiwan, the last stronghold of the Nationalists, remains a contentious issue to this day. The relationship between China and Taiwan, both politically and militarily, continues to shape East Asian geopolitics. The ideological divide between communism and nationalism still echoes in China's political landscape, influencing the country's relations with the rest of the world. The Chinese Civil War was not just a war of territory, it was a battle for the future of China itself. It was a clash of competing ideologies, each promising a new vision for a nation at the crossroads of history. In the end, the victory of the Communists reshaped the 20th century and set the course for China's rise as a global power.
Want more untold stories of war, history, and mystery? Subscribe to Past of Nations for deep dives into the battles, strategies, and secrets that shaped our world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications because history isn't just the past, it's the key to unlocking the future.